So what I thought I'd do is while I've got this thing out of the rack and I am doing maintenance on it, I'll give you a quick view of the AKAI S6000. So first thing you notice about the S6000 over some of its predecessors is the fact that the actual screen, which when you see the promotional literature for this particular sampler, would be sitting there, but the screen itself actually detaches. Okay, and there is a connection point in here, which is a sort of serial connector, and then there's a connection point on the panel itself that allows you to actually move this away. Now I've got about 10 meters of cable with this unit that I've acquired, so this can be quite a considerable distance from the actual unit itself and still control it. Okay, so I'll come back to the control panel in a sec. So the thing you'll notice about the front of the unit is it's pretty plain, to be honest. On the left hand side of the unit, as you're looking at it, effectively we've got the power switch, we've then got a blank, and we've got a 2 gig jazz drive, which was the musician's drive of choice a few years back. This unit was designed that these could be effectively interoperable in terms of a number of devices in there. So on some promotional literature you'll see that there are 1.4 meg floppy drives attached to this. On other devices you'll see compact flash. I know for a fact that this is obviously, it's got an Omega Jazz drive in it. It also has, behind this one, there is a standard ID hard drive just sitting behind this, because I've seen inside it, and you'll see inside it shortly. Moving over onto the other side of the unit itself, we have, starting from the top, we have the main volume. So this controls the main volume going out of the unit itself. A volume pot for phones, which is the socket beneath it, and then we effectively have a sort of mono stroke stereo left and right in. So if you put the jack in to the left, it becomes a mono in. If you put it into the left and right, it's a stereo in. So that's the front of the unit itself. Then we come on to the actual screen and the control, the guts of the unit. Sorry, the brains of the unit, should I say, not the guts. Now I will get into more detail about what this does, but as you can see, it's a fully functioned, what's that, 5-inch screen, I suppose. When it's up and running, effectively what happens is down the side of the screen you have the options, and you use these function keys to flip in and out of the options, plus these ones here for doing some of the standard editing, so sampling, recording, saving, loading. So they're sort of pulled out separately on this bottom rung. Then we come over here and we've effectively got some edit functionality in terms of things like marking and jumping, enter, exits, moving from one window to another, moving the cursor around the screen, and a pot here for rapid data entry. So that's what the screen looks like. Now, in terms of, as I said before, there's a connector on the back here, which is the serial connector that goes back to the main unit. But there's also another connector here, which is this one here, which is a standard old style ATE keyboard. So I know most modern keyboards now are USB, but this is the old style ATE keyboard. Given the age of the unit, it's not surprising. Which apparently you should buy, and I've got to go and get one, because it makes editing samples that you've stored in the unit much easier. So that's what the front of the unit of the S6000 looks like. Now we'll turn it around. So as if by magic, the unit is now turned around. So again, let's start going left to right, shall we? So this unit is capable of doing balanced inputs. So you have a left mono and a right, making the stereo pair for balanced inputs. You also have the ability to do a balanced output, so this was obviously for live work when using balanced outputs was preferred, especially if you're going into a desk. And these units typically were designed to sit in the background of the stage or a live environment in a rack somewhere with that controller unit out in front. Therefore these were designed to go straight into the desk as balanced outs. You can see that this unit has the ability to have 16 outputs on it. What you'll notice is that the particular unit I've got in front of me has outputs 9 to 16 blanked off because there's no card in there for them, but we do have the standard 8 outputs. Now the way the unit works is that the outputs 1 and 2 are the standard mains, and by default they will work left and right. And then what we do have is we then have a further 6 outputs here, which are designed to work as stereo pairs. Okay, so stereo output number 2 is 3 and 4. Number 3, 5 and 6, number 4, 7 and 8. Okay, it's what it's designed to work as stereo pairs. So it's actually pushing the signal out in a stereo mode, which again would be fantastic for live performances. Whereas in the past samplers have wanted to really push out a mono signal, this is designed to push out a stereo signal. Then we come down to this part at the bottom here, and I must confess that I'm not really into moving things around digitally this way anymore. My studio's not geared up for it. But we have we have a digital out which uses a sort of standard cable, and then we have the digital in and out which uses the optical cables. And as I said, I've got neither running in my studio at the moment, so at the moment I won't be using either of the sort of optical in, optical out, digital in and digital out on this particular unit. I have to be honest and say I have not a clue what this is all about, this world clock. I assume it's some sort of synchronization, and by the looks of it, it looks like it was sort of an old BNC 10 base network connector. So effectively what it was trying to do was look at the office network and then come off the office network and take a synchronization off that. In fact, I don't know any offices nowadays that still have this style of connector knocking around. Everything's now gone over to the standard RJ45 and 100 base connections. Then moving across in the centre section here, we have 2 SCSI connectors, so you can have 2 SCSI devices connected to the unit itself. My friend who I got this off of had an external SCSI drive with a whole load of samples that he had plugged into this, and he used to use this, move it between this and another machine. Then we have 2 blank units here which are for expansion. Now this unit doesn't have a USB socket on it, however it is capable of supporting a USB socket. So I have in the last day or so ordered a USB which will be slotted into, I think it's that one there. Okay, so there will be a USB connector in there which will allow it to connect into my studio far easier. Then carrying on moving over, we then have, which sounds a bit weird, but we actually have 2 sets of MIDI sockets, an A and a B, both within, out and through. Now my experience of this is that it's quite possible that you are wanting to trigger samples on more than 32 channels, hence the reason why they give you the ability to actually have 2 sets of MIDI channels here, okay, to control different numbers of samples operating on different number of channels. So that's what this is all about. Then we move over to here. There's obviously a fan because the power is on this side of the machine itself. Then obviously the power rating. So this is maximum load is 60 watts, operating load is 35 watts. And then we come down to this, which you don't really see on pieces of equipment nowadays, which is a ground loop. So if you are operating turntables, then and you're sampling from turntables, then you will need to connect that to the mixer or to the turntable to ensure that all the equipment is grounded to a common ground. Okay, otherwise you start to get hums and rattles and stuff that get into the sample signal. That will give it a clean signal. And then finally we've got the standard ICE power socket here on the far right. So that's the back of the unit. As you can see, original serial number from AKAI Electric Co. Limited, which is obviously the trading division in the UK. So this is UK spec. And now let's go and have a look inside it. So I've now taken the top of the unit off, so you can get a good view of what's actually going on inside. One of the things you will notice about this sort of stuff, and I mean most of the legacy sound modules, you did notice that they're incredibly well built. You know, they're designed to take some punishment. Unfortunately, a lot of the modern stuff being plastic, if you drop it, it won't survive. Whereas this stuff, you know, stuff gets dropped on it, it's not going anywhere. So you do notice that for starters. Now, looking around inside here, I'll use a screwdriver so I can point it out where I put my fingers in places. This is the front of the unit, this is the back of the unit. So as I said, this is where the power is, so the power comes in here. That's the power supply board up here, and obviously the back down there is the transformer that transforms it down from, I suspect it's transforming it down from 240 to 12 volts and 5 volts. There's probably 2 sets of rails in here. One of the things you will then notice above it is I was saying about the jazz drive. There's the jazz drive there, and then there's an IDE drive. So this actually has a hard drive in it. Okay, this is a standard computer hard drive. And in fact, if you look around inside the unit itself, it really is. It's a PC. This is a motherboard. This is a PC, and somewhere in here will be a CPU unit. I'm just not quite sure where at the moment. It must be. It's probably hidden under here, I suspect. But effectively, it's a PC. And funny enough, the giveaway point is actually on the main board, which you probably can't see on the video, but I can see where it says PC #main. Okay, so it's a computer. All right, so that's how AKAI did it. They made a computer which was dedicated to sampling. This board over here is the inputs from the front and the volume board, which obviously comes back to that particular ribbon port. And then looking round the board, the key features in here are this area here. This is all the DIMM memory. So this is how the sampler actually saves its stuff, and it looks like I've got a full stack of DIMM memory in the unit itself. I will go and do some diagnostics to find out how much I've actually got. Then there is a expansion card installed here. I don't know what expansion card that actually is. I'm sure I will work it out when I read the numbers off and go back and look at the reference manual. Moving down, we then come to this bit, which is obviously the inputs and outputs. So effectively this is the master input output board, and this is the balanced board. So going down to all the balance connectors. What I do like about this construction though is the fact that the connectors that will actually, if you like, take some abuse, are actually mounted away from the board. That I quite like, I must admit, because it means that there's less chance of what I call connector bend. So connector, put wire in like so, put weight on wire, forces the connector away from the board. So you should always be supporting wires in the wiring room around the back of this stuff. So, and it looks like the 1/4 inches are fairly well designed the same way with additional board supports. So, and obviously if we then look, we've got this area here which looks like a VESA expansion board, and then we've got these areas here which are further expansion boards, and I understand one of these will be used up when I put my USB socket into the unit. But that's the inside of the AKAI S6000. Obviously obviously they were designed modular, they were designed for upgrades, because obviously the amount of sockets that are available for upgrades, including things like putting additional hard drives in, because I noticed that this one up here is an IDE socket, as is that one there. That's an IDE socket, so that means you can put more hard drives in there, and there is a caddy space here for hard drive as well, so this can move back a bit, which is really interesting. So yeah, it looks like it was well put together, or very well put together. So S6000, quick overview, nothing more than that on this video. Alright, bye bye.